Well, yeah, we founded a private school um, 25 years ago, or something like that. Just because, well, me and my wife, we have that approach that is when we meet an opportunity, we say, why not? And then things happen. And and that was exactly what it happened. We met this couple. They had founded a super small school. It was just something that they do like within inside their home with some families and things like that. Then they developed a little bit in 9, 10 years of activities. But when they arrived and they had more or less 65, 70 years old, they don't have any more motivation to go on these activities. And then so they met us and said, well, if you like, you can do it by your own. It doesn't take it so much. And this was a big lie, but we believe in this and say, okay, let's do it. And we start this journey. It was a small school of 50 people, more or less. Now we are not so big, but we are 200 families and a sports center and an academy a music academy.
Hmm.
It is for children from 6 to 13 years old, the school, and the sports center, and it's for all the families, and it's really big activities that one because we have more or less 4,000 people there. And instead, the music academy is more selective, and it is for, I mean, it is a sort of a layer that for those who went out they go out from the school when they are 13 and they still need something to do with this kind of education, and so music is a good way uh, to get in touch with teenagers. And then there is a project also for transforming their passions like music and events in a professional approach, and this is what we do. Well, this is all the things that we are managing. We live in a small town because I work in Milano, but we live in a smaller town, and so this is why such a small school can survive this
And
Thank you.
super short.
and your knowledge of appreciative inquiry, I'd say from like, a teacher thing, a fist to five. Fist is like I don't really know it at all. Five, I could present on it.
Well, I've done the JCP, the certification program. I'm using a lot of activity on the facilitation, and but about the appreciative inquiry, I will run the course in June. So now I've read something on. Okay, as I'm attending to all the meetings that I can with the exchange, something is contacting me somehow.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Welcome, Christina.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, it's kind
No
of a
worries.
project.
Can you tell us where you're coming from?
I'm in Colorado.
Okay. And are you coming from a school as well?
Well, I'm a parent and the PTO treasurer, so I'm coming from that side of how do I enhance our mission is to enhance the enrichment and this more, I've got a good elementary school that's very social and emotional well-being. So I'm just new to appreciative inquiry. I'm at my fist, maybe half a fist, maybe 0.5. But just how do I learn about appreciative inquiry and bring it into the school and into my work as our parent influencer?
And are you also affiliated with Jennifer?
Well, thankfully I just met her at TBD.
Okay.
Transformation by Design. So hopefully more. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
And
So,
Laura, a little bit, what do you know and what were your expectations for coming here? How did you find out about it?
Well, I mean, I know very, very, very little. Like from fist to five, maybe the fist, like very close to zero. I'm mostly here. Well, I found out about this because of my dad, and I'm just here to absorb as much as I can, like a sponge, you know. I'm trying to withhold as much information as I can.
Okay, well, thank you. Heidi, did you want to kick
Yeah,
us off?
sure. So our goal for today was to really just share with all of you the work that Jennifer and I are doing in schools. Um, this work can be done outside of schools as well. We are both former teachers, so our passion lies within the school system and really enhancing that to be more collaborative. Um, and Jennifer is an appreciative inquiry practitioner. She could tell you more about that. I have dabbled in it as well. And so we've created our own frameworks that really fits within the school system and is still strengths based. It's born out of appreciative inquiry. So we're going to get into that today and have you experience just a little bit of it and just show you our process. And it's only meant to be a half an hour. We're already 10 minutes in, so we just have a quick 20 minutes. So it's not going to be as deep or as rich. We're not going to have these huge discussions like we would normally have. It's just a little taster. And if it's something that you're really interested in, we can do a deeper dive with you at a later time.
Mm-hmm. And you know, if people need to be mindful and hop off at the bottom of the hour, we're also a little flexible. We can stay a little longer. I've prepared to always hang loose. And full transparency, this is something Heidi, like you came up with this idea. So like sometimes one of us will lead versus the other kind of support. So Heidi, I'm just excited to see where we take this organically and take it away.
Yeah. And Jennifer and I are really good at just bouncing off of one another. So even though this was my idea, she'll pop in because we love that. And hi, Rebecca. It's nice to see you. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to really meet you through introduction, but if you want to pop some information about where you're coming from, if you're with a school, that sort of stuff in the chat, we'd love to learn a little more about you. Okay, so our frameworks is called A Trail of Conversations, and we have a long variety of reasons for calling it that. And part of that is that um, we leave artifacts of these conversations along the way. It also goes with nature, and we have a lot of hiking metaphors in this, and so that's sort of the short description. But we've taken the TRAIL and we've created 5 core competencies. And like I said, Jennifer and I are both educators. Jennifer, you have over 20 years in the classroom, I believe.
Yeah, I started in 2000 and I took some sabbaticals and some other things, but yeah.
And you're on sabbatical right now. I started in 99. I taught for a total of 12 years and currently am focusing on this. And we are writing a book about our trail of conversations. So that's where the author's portion comes from. Our 5 core competencies are these. This is our TRAIL. And in everything that we do, we make sure that these competencies are in it. We do trainings on these competencies, and we also take people through a larger process, which we'll show you in a little bit. And those just hit each of these competencies. So I'll go through them real quick. I know you can read them, but we tap into our strengths to generate momentum with the group. And we're going to ask you a question in a little bit to get you to experience that. This is a strengths-based process. So we take the past and we reframe it to support future solutions. We're always looking for solutions and we don't want to focus on the problem. We want to focus on where do we want to go, because then that's what grows. We ask positive questions so that we can yield those positive outcomes. Sometimes people ask us, is this like a toxic positivity thing? It's quite the opposite of that. We still look at what are the issues that may come up, what are some problems that or roadblocks that we may run into, and how do we ask the positive question that gets us where we want to be. So instead of saying something like, what's not working right now, we say, where do we want to be in a year from now on whatever subject it is. So let's say we're trying to increase test scores. Where do we want our test scores to be in a year from now? And then we can backwards map, what do we need to do to get there? What issues might come up that we need to be ready to deal with, right? So it's not toxic positivity, but it is focusing on that positive outcome. We invite multiple perspectives because that inspires us and allows us to make progress. So this is bringing in viewpoints of many different people from many different areas. So in a school system, this might be not only the admin and the teachers, but also the staff that supports teachers. It could be somebody from the main office. It could be somebody out on yard duty. It could be the lunch people. It could be the assistants that help the students in the classroom. And also parents and students. They have input too. They know what they need. They're part of that process. So we bring as many perspectives in as possible, depending on what that school wants at that moment. And we share ideas with each other. And as we know, one brain is better, two brains are better than one because we start to build off of one another, right? Somebody might share an idea that we hadn't thought of before, and then we build upon that. So our progress and our perspective really grows when we have multiple perspectives. And then we lead to empower others so that this is more sustainable, really trying to prevent burnout, but also making sure that all the constituents feel, and not only feel, but do belong. They're part of that process. They're bought in. There's much more energy, positive energy around doing something when they're part of creating it versus having them told what to do from the top down. So with that, Jennifer, do you want to, or can you pop in the chat our Padlet?
I actually have that all ready to go. And so what we're going to be doing in a moment is going through each one and kind of do a little thought jogger. And rather than doing like a journal, and a lot of people are here from Exchange where you do the right pair share, we're going to make this a little digital playground. And Heidi gave like a very general overview, and we're going to make it freedom of choice. You can focus on any one of those 5 topics, and I'll expand on them a little bit more and give you some thought joggers, but I want to make sure if everyone can access the Padlet. And Heidi, if you want to screen share on the Padlet.
Yeah, so just click on the link that Jennifer has put in the chat there. And you should pop up with something like this. Does everyone have access to that? Rebecca?
And so as
Rebecca,
we're going,
are you still trying to get access?
Mm-hmm.
What is it saying?
Oh.
You got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
and so Heidi, if you want to show when you click onto the plus, then people are able to answer the question. So we're giving you some time, and I'll go through each one to respond to that question. So when you're thinking of tapping into your strengths, what are some strengths at your school that have, or some staff or some students? So as you are thinking about this, you're actually experiencing some of these frameworks. So if you can be thinking about what you're working on right now, some new initiatives, maybe high point moments from last year or at the top of the mind, I'd like you to think about that and put that as a comment in the Padlet. And so see how she's able to do that. And what's really fun about Padlet, and I don't know how familiar people are with that, you can also add pictures, you can add videos. So this is also crowdsourcing our strengths when we have multiple perspectives. So I'd like you to just think of a moment, and when you have an answer, what are some of the strengths as you are seeing that with your students, your teachers, some positive outcomes that had happened recently? And full transfer, I made the Padlet, so I know the Heidi, you were able to access it. So be interesting to see when people populate that.
Yeah, so we should see your note when you populated it. And again, you don't have to start with question 1. You can start with any of the questions.
So that's the first one, right? And I just want to give some people some time to work onto that one.
And you're welcome to come off mute and talk to us about it too.
Sure. And as people are considering that one, I'll just go through the other ones as well. When you think about reframing the past, and in that little signpost, the trail post, that was the only marker that went in the opposite direction. So in reframing the past, you think of the positive opposite of your current struggle. And that comes from, if you're familiar with Jackie Stavros and Sherry Torres, Conversations Worth Having. There was a book study on that with, I think Freddie and Celeste did a book study on that, but we always like to reference where we got our inspiration. So if you think of a struggle that's going on, and then you just reverse it. So if there's a student who is really having difficulty coming on in time, they're always coming an hour late. The positive opposite is that they are coming in on time. So all you need to do is name your struggle, put it in the positive opposite of that, and then you could say, like, how might we support Malcolm in coming to school on time, right? So it's just a way to really set a positive trajectory on a conversation that you're about to have with a parent or with the student themselves or with a faculty member. So we can be thinking about that.
And I'll give another example of that. Let's say we have very low family and community engagement. Back to school night, parents weren't showing up. Maybe we had 2 or 3 families out of each classroom showing up, and that just didn't feel like what we were hoping for. So the positive opposite would be, we hit 90% parent participation at back to school night. And so the question would be, what more can we do, or what can we do differently to help us get to that 90% participation?
And then I see people are starting to populate that. I can go on to the third one and just kind of give a couple examples or thought joggers. Positive question, what you could ask to yield a positive outcome. It could be, for example, I see this a lot. Our kids are struggling. They have an area that they're not doing well in. How do we remediate it? Versus you could ask in like a professional learning community, again, like what are our students doing better than we expected? What's going on with that? How is it that they became successful in meeting that standard? And really unpack that, so that way you can take that strength and that positive question and then apply it in an area of an opportunity for growth. So instead of how do we get our kids who are struggling off of the failure list, well, what areas are they doing well in, and how can we apply that in a growth opportunity? And I see we have a strong purpose, a long tradition, and we are motivated to innovate the way we make school. I love that. And then what you can also do too is people can add comments as well, and people can upvote in there. So this even itself can be an evergreen conversation if you keep the tabs open. Okay. Heidi, did you want to scroll down a little bit?
Yeah, I'm looking at Christina's response on question 2. How can
Ooh,
we
yes.
set up 5th graders to carry this positive social emotional well-being from elementary school into 6th grade? I love that question.
Wow.
Is your school, excuse me, K-5 or is it K-8?
K-5.
K-5. Okay. Yeah.
So, okay, so where my brain goes is that it sounds like there is an issue that they really lean into it in the elementary school, and then it kind of falls off when they go into the middle school. Right?
Naturally, yeah, because they're more focused on the academic, and there's less parent involvement that
Yeah.
cuts off in middle school.
And
They're
the school
tired.
itself, generally elementary schools have a higher focus on SEL compared to middle and high schools, right?
Correct.
And we know it's so necessary as they continue to grow, and especially through those pubescent years, right? Like they need that support. So not only how do we get the students to carry that through, how do we support that they're continuing to get that content that keeps it growing, right?
Well,
Mhm.
and that is such a great example, because when you start asking about that, well, how can we continue the 5th graders to bring that legacy of SEL into the middle school? Now you're generating ideas. Well, I don't know, who were the ones who were doing it really well? What were they doing? How might that translate to the older kids? But if you led with the way most of us would probably lead, what's going on in the middle school that now they're not doing SEL anymore? Well, and then they start to explain the problem, which is not going to get you the result, right? So that is such a great example right there.
And what I love about this too, and I'm seeing Giuliano just put a comment in number 2 about reframing the past to the positive opposite. And that's more about helping with economic support, having the school support the families in that. These questions, as we start to ask these questions and figure out where do we want to go from there and what are some of our solutions for it, we can go back and look at what our strengths are, right? We have here a lot of the social and emotional strengths that are coming up in the first question, and that's going to help us to build on Christina's question of how do we carry that social and emotional well-being into 6th grade. It might also help us with Giuliano's question, because he talks about, the families live in like an education village. We're together, we're all one. So how do we come together to help support us economically, right? So that's why we started with those strengths, is because we can build upon those and we can tap into them to help us find our solutions.
When I look up to the top one with the innovation, you have identified a strength of innovation. And if people are willing to stay a little bit past, we can show you how you could actually take this into like a full systems process. What you could do is say, okay, well, let's look at when were we most innovative? How did the people come together to innovate? What were those outcomes, and how might we take some of those germs of ideas and apply that to an economic innovation, right?
And these questions, they take a little bit of time, and we're really running through these quickly today because we just had a 30-minute session for y'all as a preview. But you have this link to this Padlet. Feel free to continue to answer these questions for yourself and look at the responses that other people give. It might help you to generate some new ideas. And
I did.
notice that the 6th spot there is a way for you to leave your contact info for us. If you'd like us to get in touch with you further, that's one way you can do that. I'm going to.
I did want to touch upon number 3 is pretty self-evident. For number 4, to really be thinking about what you're working on as you're coming up, and how might you include other people that you might traditionally might not have thought of doing that, knowing that if you ask positive questions to those different groups, you will get positive outcomes. Putting together parents with teachers, but asking a positive question to get us all on that same page of an ideal outcome now you're being able to build relationships, build trust. And then for number 5, leading to empower others whose perspectives have not been included, that you may do that, and also giving them an opportunity to take an idea and run with it. Or thinking about a person with PTO, I'm thinking of an example. There may be some people who have a lot of energy around a certain topic, and to empower them and say, I love that idea. Would you like to be the person to lead that? Right? As opposed to people always bringing ideas to the leadership team, hoping that maybe they say yes, to say, would you like to do that?
All right, so we're going to go back to our slide deck and just show you a quick review of the rest of our process. So that was helping us to just go through those 5 core competencies, and we do train people on how to use that type of language to embed these competencies and how to be thinking about those types of questioning strategies in everything that you do. Um, our larger process, this is the main process that we have, is our 6A adventure cycle. And this process allows groups of people to come together on a particular topic of their choosing. So in a school system, again, if it was that topic of, hey, our test scores are really low and we want to improve our test scores, that's what we're going to come together on and find alignment around step 1. Maybe the topic is improving attendance. Maybe the topic is coming up with a new initiative for the year. Like, it could be big, it could be small. Sometimes schools are just wanting to get people to connect. They feel disconnected, right? And so we find a topic that helps them to connect. So anyway, our first step is to align them, and we ask questions that help them go through those trail competencies and really to find where they line up with each other. From there, we look what has been working in our community. So we're building on our assets and our past to help us find solutions to go through this. And then step 3 is, where do we want to go? And we make a larger plan. So a lot of this has to do with the trail that we already went through, but this is a much deeper dive. We can spend 2 to 3 full days on this process, really going into deep conversations with each other. Sometimes we have a process that's an interview process and really helps people to connect in there. We've had schools and organizations hire us just to do 1 and 2. We've had schools and organizations hire us to go all the way through number 6. And when we go all the way through number 6, after we've taken these first 3 steps, we've aligned everybody. We know what our assets are and what we can build upon, and we know where we want to go. Then we have that whole group of people come together, and this is where we really share our ideas, and we build a roadmap to make it happen. And this is where the buy-in is really strong because they're creating it. It's not a cookie cutter model anymore. We live in a society where we have, at least in the States, we have tract homes. Everything's the same. It's a one size fits all. But that's not how it works for human beings. We're not one size fits all. We all have different needs and different experiences. So in a school district where you might have some things that need to be regulated across the schools, you can still find ways to meet those requirements while building it for that individual school. And the school across town has a different demographic. It has different students, different families, different teachers. So their needs are slightly different. You can still fulfill the same requirements, but maybe how you get there is a little bit different. And it's really built by the people in that school. So their buy-in is there. So that's our articulate. When we get to activate, that's when we get them into trying it out. Test it out. Let's see how it's going. We have accountability built into that. We have ownership built into that. And then from there, we come back to step 6 and say, okay, how did it work? Is there anything we need to change on this? What's working well? What more can we add? What have we learned? And we can keep building from there. We can go right back through that cycle again as many times as we need to in order to really have it fit us. And the beautiful part about that is as we know in nature, it's ever changing. So once we've gotten to step 6, maybe it's working now, maybe we've got it great, but in 3 years from now, some things have shifted and we need to change a little bit again. So we have this whole process where we can keep making different iterations on that, right? And really building. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a once and done either. It's a living process that we continue to grow and build upon.
So Heidi, that was so fun to hear you talk about that. And I wanted to say 2 things. One, like an example of what we're doing right now, that is that perfect example of adapting and adjusting over time, is artificial intelligence policies. The topic is we have this new tool called AI. How do we use it? How do we create a uniform policy that everyone feels like they were part of the process and their voices were heard, their perspectives were solicited and valued? Because really, the challenge is, how do we take this new technology and how might that support why we do our school, our core values, our guiding principles? So it's really about bringing something new to the school. It happens to be artificial intelligence. 5-10 years from now, who knows what it is, but that's really the overall issue that we can help people who are struggling with it. And then the other thing, for people who are in exchange, very transparently, appreciative inquiry is a 5D cycle with define, discover, dream, design, destiny. John had taken that and made it his own with his eyes. So we made ours with A's. And then we added a 6th component, because when you bring people together to come up with a co-created plan for collaboration and implementation, then once the schools go off and start to implement it, how do we follow along, follow through, and support them through communities of practice to discover what's been working well in the implementation? So that's, if a lot of that sounded very similar, it's because yes, we take that and we adapted it specifically for the language and special needs of a school district.
Yeah. So that's our frameworks, and that's how we use it and why we use it in the way that we do. Jennifer and I have individual LLCs, and so this is our contact information individually. We do have a Trail of Conversations contact as well, but this tends to be a little quicker for us. So I put these up here. And if you're interested in having a deeper conversation with us on how we can bring this to your school, and what maybe even trying to generate some ideas of what area you would like to focus on, just mention that you had signed up for the session, even if you're watching it as a recording and weren't here on the day of the session. Just mention the session and we can do a free 2-hour consultation with you, which will allow you to do some pre-planning and figure out what areas you want to focus on. And we can include your entire admin team in there.
Mm-hmm. And we can break it up over 2 1 hours if
however it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any questions or comments before we go?
Well, I have to say that it's really amazing, this, especially I'm not surprised about the power of the questions, because every time you put a good question, you have amazing results immediately. And that's something that we should teach to our teachers. That's the first part. But then apart from this, I really love the journey, the 6-step journey, because it's really interesting, and it immediately inspires me how we could make each step. I don't know if you have already done using things like Lego Serious Play, Dixit cards, storytelling dice, because for each of them there is something that we can. I started imagining some of the point. I said, wow, if we do this and we make people telling their stories, I can help them to understand better that part, and then the alignment it flows directly from these energies and blah 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 and all these things. So it's super powerful. I'd love to spend some time with you to, if you want to design, to go deeper into this. I think that probably we cannot do directly something with my school just because they don't speak English. Not all the teachers, and so it could be a little bit a problem. I mean, some parts are well, they of course they can speak and they're good, but some others, and they are strategic people. They cannot follow a good flow if they do it in English. So this is, but I'd like to, if we can exchange ideas, and if you want to have a conversation about how we can do something together, I'm totally open because I have a lot of energy on it.
Yes, it sounds to me like the language barrier would make it hard for us to come in and do a direct professional development, but we could work with you to figure out, especially since you have some knowledge in appreciative inquiry itself, we could work with you to figure out how to pass that along in their home language. Yeah.
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 Yeah, absolutely.
I do have to run. I have another commitment, so I'm gonna stop the recording. If I can find it. Oh, there it is. And I'm gonna